Is it good? Yeah, I'm gonna go take it out now. Thanks, buddy.
Because these horsemen ride with the pistol on its side, with heads like thunder, the rock of your pride. We'll have no mercy for big, far and wide.
Alright, so we had a little bit of time left. Parker and I decided to jump out. She's on the Iron 1200 right over there. I'm gonna jump on this Softail Slim, see how it feels. First impression is that crankcase still seems pretty wide. It's kind of getting onto my leg a little bit. The feel is good though. I mean, I'm not a big fan of these bars versus the higher bars. I like the higher bars. This is more similar to like the Bolt where it's just a little bit down further, but it's a good riding position. Feels like it's solid. I can tell that the riding position here is going to be really similar to that Street Bob. I don't know what, these mid controls are so high. All right, here we go. Taking off the Softail Slim. Ironically, right next to the Street Bob we just rode. So I'll say that right off the bat, I definitely don't feel as comfortable on this bike as I did on the Street Bob. It isn't that it's bad, it's just different. It doesn't feel as nimble, feels heavier, a little bit more clunky, but not out of reach. It's not something that you can't handle. Just something about these big twins that I'm just kind of like, I don't know. They're just different. They're just built different. Whoa. I felt that. Holy shit. It's the thing on these small rides is you don't get to feel that power. I guess that's the big difference between the types of bikes I ride and this type of bike. Like, you know, they both serve their purpose. This is something that you could get on the highway and ride for 200 miles, and the Sportster is definitely not that kind of bike. And the Bolt is a little bit more nimble, lightweight. You know, it's still a small motor though, so you can ride it 900 miles, sure, but it's not going to be nearly as comfortable. You could feel this. Parker's back there dancing on that Iron 1200. So gear selector, yeah, it does have a gear selector. That's good because I have no idea what gear I'm in. So let's talk about, could I see myself riding these bikes? Either one, really, yeah, I could definitely see myself riding. Would it be my main bike? Probably not. I would want a smaller displacement bike like the Sportster, like the Bolt. I would want something like that to get around town, especially being in the city. But even if I still lived in Austin, still lived in San Marcos, I probably wouldn't want to ride one of these. However, that trip from San Marcos to Austin that I was making every day, this would be an amazing bike to do that. Because that Sportster, once you hit 80 miles an hour, which the speed limits in Texas are 80 miles an hour, that thing feels like it's about to rattle apart. You know, these are built for stuff like that. Obviously not as well as that guy right there. Like he could probably ride 300 miles on that thing and not even feel anything. But yeah, I would want to buy one of these for that. I would want to own one of these for that. You know, even out here, they're 30 miles an hour, 25 recommended through these turns. It's still a fun bike. So I don't feel as comfortable in this circle as I did on that Street Bob up there. It just doesn't, like the familiarity that I was talking about is not there. It's not present. Maybe because that thing is kind of more what my Sportster kind of looks like, kind of rides like. So it just gives me that familiarity. This one I just don't have that. I would get used to it though. Easy getting used to it. Wouldn't be a problem at all. I do actually kind of like the little mini fairing. I'm not having any wind issues, which is great. Not that we would be having wind issues. We're going 25 miles an hour, but all right, so that was it. The 2021 Softail Low, right next to the 2021 Street Bob. Those are the two I rode today. I think that Parker and I are going to go grab a beer, maybe some food, and maybe we'll talk about some of the fun stuff.
We now return to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Alright everybody, so we are back from Empire Harley-Davidson. It was so awesome to get out there and do that demo truck day. Every single 2021 bike out there. We only got to do a couple of rides because there were so many people, but it was still a ton of fun. They sold a ton of bikes. They were so nice to everybody who was coming in the store. Just two super top quality people. They were all really, really nice, made sure that everybody was safe, made sure that everybody had a good time. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to ride 2 bikes, both 2021 models, the Street Bob and the other one is the Softail Slim. So I do have a couple of pros and cons on both of them. I know I did mini kind of first impression reviews on the bike, but I also wanted to do a more in-depth pro-con list of each one that I liked at the end of these videos, this series of videos. This is gonna be part 2, by the way. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll go ahead and I'll put a link down in the description. So the 2021 Street Bob, some of the pros I really liked about this bike. The blackout was awesome compared to the Softail Standard, which is essentially the exact same motorcycle. The only difference is the color, and it has all the chrome and stuff on it. The blackout, not having any chrome on there, crazy cool looking. It looked amazing. The colors, the Baja Orange, I didn't like it at first. After I rode it, I liked it a lot. It would kind of be really cool if it had the Baja Orange tank and then it had the black fenders, but you know, that's always an option. If you want, you can always go through and change those aftermarket. The third thing, the power of these 114s. I'm so happy that they put these 114s in these bikes. These are about 1900 cc's with a 6-speed transmission, and you can really feel it. If it's down in the lower speeds, it's a great cruiser. It doesn't really interfere with anything too much, but once you actually get on it, that thing will throw you off the seat, man. They are crazy powerful. Yeah, the 6-speed transmission. We didn't get up into those speeds where it would need the 6-speed. One of the things I really don't like about the Sportster is I wish it had a 6-speed. Once you're getting up into those higher RPMs of that 5th gear and that 85, 90 mile an hour range, you just really want that 6th gear. Don't get me wrong, I have ridden a Sportster over 400 miles. It's fine, like it's uncomfortable sometimes. You kind of like are on and off and all over the place. You gotta stop for gas every like 100 or so miles because the tank isn't that big, but it's fine. It's fine to cruise, and you can go a long distance on that thing. It would really help if it had a 6-speed. So having the 6-speed on that Street Bob, on the Softail Slim, that's a really big thing. Once again, I just was so familiar on that bike. As soon as I got on it, I felt so comfortable. I felt like I could take that thing right off the lot. I could drive it every single day. I could ride it across the country if I needed to. It was just so familiar, so comfortable. I didn't really think that there was much of a learning curve. It definitely would have had to get used to the way that the shifter shifts and the way that the mid controls are. Definitely would have to get used to having a lot more power, a lot more torque. Still, it just felt so familiar, and I was very comfortable on that bike. The last thing I have for this is the ride was just so solid. If you hit a bump, if you were going through a turn, if you were just cruising straight, it was so solid. Everything was tight, everything was locked up. You didn't feel all the vibrations like running through the handlebars, rumbling up under your butt. It was just so tight. It was a great ride. Some of the cons I have for it, those mid controls, I don't know what it was. I was so tight. My legs were all the way up past the top of the tank. I'm not sure if it was like the pants I was wearing that day, which were actually kind of tight. It shouldn't feel that close. I was so cramped, and it definitely needed for forward controls. It was quiet. It was way quieter than I thought it was gonna be. The Sportster has a stock exhaust system on it, and it's loud. It's a loud bike. Like, I don't even really feel the need to have a aftermarket exhaust besides like if I just wanted a different color. It's a loud bike. The decal on the side, I'm not a huge fan of, the big one that they have going down the side, but you know what? That's just what it is. It is what it is. It's not really that big of a deal. It was just something that every time I looked at that bike and I saw that one, and I looked over at the Softail Standard, I looked over at the Softail Slim, and I'm like, those other ones just look better without that big decal on the side. I'm not really sure why they decided to do that just for the Street Bob. The shifter, it was so long. It was like really hard to get that gear up, that gear down. And then, as I said in the initial review, like it wouldn't go all the way down into like first and then stop. It just kept, like, you kept hitting the thing and it just kept going. It wasn't as solid as any other bike I've ridden where you just tap, stop. You know you're in first gear. You don't really have to think about it anymore. It was also really difficult to go from second gear down into neutral. You really had to push it down into first if you were there. You never really knew, and then pop it up into neutral. which was kind of a pain in the butt for me. I thought it was a little weird, but I don't know, it's just something, it's part of that learning curve, something you would have to get used to. The brake pedal was pretty similar, like it was flat almost, and you had to push your leg forward. You had to really like push your ankle out, stretch your shin in order to hit that rear brake, which I thought was kind of strange. I'm not sure if they're just like relying on riders using just the front brake or anything like that, but I've always been a big advocate of a 60-40 split, 60% front brake, 40% rear brake, especially at a big stop, because if you have to stop real quick and you hit that front brake, yeah, it does have ABS on it, but I just felt a lot less control every time I've locked up kind of the front, even with the ABS versus the rear, which gives you at least more control over your center of gravity. That's my opinion. That's the way I learned how to ride. It's kind of like more of a motocross style. I don't know, that rear brake was just, the position was so strange to me. The seat was uncomfortable, but you know, that's a Harley seat. Every Harley seat is uncomfortable pretty much from the factory. The gear indicator, it was really hard to read. It was way over on the side, way over on the side of that little gauge. It just was not as bright. Like the rest of the stuff was super bright. I could tell what my RPMs were. I could select between that, between mileage, between other options were on there. I could see my speed very clearly. I could see the gas very clearly. I could see when I was in neutral, when I was looking at the dash very clearly. Didn't really feel it as much, but when you were stopped and you were able to pop it into neutral, it definitely popped up right there with a big N right in the middle that showed you what it was. The selector on the side, I just really couldn't see it all that much. Also, whenever you pull the clutch in, the number goes away. So you're in first, it says 1, you pull it in, the number goes away, you shift into your other gear, and when you let go of the clutch again, the number pops up on the dash, which I'm not a big fan of at all, because there were a bunch of times where I was, you know, getting ready to ride this new bike, and I'm driving down the road and I don't know what gear I'm in, and I like put it in neutral just because I'm like cruising along trying to, you know, stay the pace with everybody else, and I look down, I have no idea what gear I'm in, because as soon as you pull that clutch in, it just disappeared. It was very strange to me. And then the crankcase, where the stator was, like right up next to my calf, was so hot. Especially that thing had been out there riding all day around, and it was just, I couldn't believe how hot that thing was for how wide it was, because I was really widened out standing over that thing trying to hold it up, and you have no choice but to put your calf right up against the side of that that stator, that timing area. That just, I wasn't a big fan of it. And so that actually is one of the reasons why I rode the Softail Slim, because upon a suggestion from one of the other riders, they said, oh yeah, I felt that too, go ride the Softail Slim, obviously because it's more of a slim bike, it's supposed to be slimmed down. So that's one of the reasons why I rode the Softail Slim, because I thought that crankcase might be a little bit more easy to deal with. With that, I will go into my pros and cons about the Softail Slim, the second ride I did of the day. The gear indicator on this one was so much easier to read. So much easier to read. It would just like seem like it was much brighter. It seemed like it was much more prominent. Still had that same issue where you pulled the clutch in and it disappeared. Just having it be brighter was way better. It was kind of in a better position too. It wasn't shoved all the way over on the side, because these ones had analog gauges. The Softail Slim has analog gauges, so they don't have to worry about the RPMs, the speedometer, stuff like that. Plus it has just a green neutral light and then just regular turn signal orange indicators on the dash, not like the Street Bob that has just this small little dash right up inside the middle of the handlebars. The front cowl was actually kind of cool. Like, I'm not for or against front cowls like the Memphis Shade style or the small ones or whatever, but I thought it was kind of cool looking. Gave it that more clubby look, and definitely did help with the wind deflection of it. I could definitely feel that. Now, like I said, we were only going about 35 miles an hour, so not really too much I could feel versus going at highway speeds or anything like that, but it was nice to have it there, definitely. The balance, it just felt a little bit more balanced. It felt like it was a little bit lower to the ground, and I had more control. The engine was a little bit more in front and up. I believe it's actually the same frame. I'm not 100% sure. I know it's the Softail line, but I think that the actual engine and transmission, everything is all in the same place. But I think maybe just the seat was lowered a little bit, and it felt like it gave me a better center of balance. It wasn't as familiar as the Street Bob. I didn't feel like I knew it as well, but it was still nice. I still really enjoyed riding that bike. I did have a little bit of an issue with those mid controls, again, like the Street Bob, and then the T-bars that were not like the mini apes that came on the Street Bob. They had like larger risers and then more regular style T-bars on the Softail Slim, which if you are into that kind of thing, then that's great. If you're not, then you know, you can always change it and do whatever it is that you want to do, which is your preference. One of the biggest thing about the Softail Slim that I really did not like about the Street Bob, the Softail Slim comes with mag spoked wheels. These were really cool. They were like a metallic gray mag wheel that just looked really good on these bikes, and the Street Bob came with the chrome spoke wheels, the same that's on the Softail Standard. On the Softail Standard, those spoke wheels look really good, mostly because they're chrome. They go along with the rest of the chrome of the bike, especially if you get just a black Softail Standard with all those chrome fixings on there and everything, and then it has the chrome spoke wheels. I thought they looked great. On the Street Bob, they should have at least been black wheels, I think, because the chrome is just kind of something that didn't really match the aesthetic as much. Or they could have just taken these mag wheels and just put them on there. Like, those mag wheels look so good, and I think that on the Street Bob it would have looked a lot better. So some of the cons, the T-bars I talked about, the mids, same thing. That crankcase was still super hot on my leg. I thought, being the Softail Slim, I might be able to avoid that a little bit, but it was still super hot, and when you're stopped, it was a real big challenge to try to avoid touching that thing. You gotta be wearing like some good thick jeans because it was not fun. Now when you're riding, you don't feel any of that. It feels great. When you're riding, you can't feel any of the heat or anything, which is awesome. They did a really good job of making sure that the wind dissipates that heat really well. But when you're stopped, it was hot.
That's hot. That's hot. That's hot. That's hot.
The gauges on the Street Bob are that little tiny thing which I talked about, which is cool. It definitely is minimalistic, and I like it a lot. It needs to be brighter, but that's, you know, it is what it is. The Softail Slim has the gauges on the tank, which is kind of more of an old school Harley thing, and I've never ridden with gauges on the tank before. I'm sure that I would get used to it after a little while of riding that, but I was just not used to like going along riding and then having to look down, unfamiliar with this, you know, data that I was given on all of these gauges. There's the speedometer, there's the tachometer, there's the small gauge in the middle, your gear indicator, your neutral light, all that kind of stuff, whatever. And it's just a lot to take in, especially when you're not used to riding with your head down like that. Now, not to say that I can't do that, but I was in a large group of about 16 riders with varied experience. I'm not sure who is a good rider, who's not. I'm riding right next to a guy who seems like he was kind of an okay rider, but I wasn't sure what his experience level was. So with that, I just was not very comfortable looking down to try to find out what gear I'm in, what speed I'm going, everything like that. It was just kind of like, I wish it could have been in a different place. I understand why they did it, because it does look good down there, but it was just kind of strange. I think that maybe if they would have had just the tachometer down there, and then they would have had the same small gauge up on the handlebars that the Softail Standard and the Street Bob has, that just is the little digital gauge, because it doesn't interfere with anything. You can barely see it. So like, you could have just put it right up there on the riser bar. It would have been, I think, a little bit easier and a little bit nicer to ride that bike. Yeah, so those were my opinions on the two bikes that I rode for the 2021 demo truck day. Once again, huge thanks to Empire Harley-Davidson, who allowed us to come out there and ride these bikes. I know they weren't their bikes, but they hosted the event. They brought all of these people out. They brought everybody together. They introduced a lot of people to some really cool bikes that I'm kind of excited about. I do think that these are going to be a lot of fun moving forward with the 2021 lineup. The Parker at Parker The Coyote. She just started her channel last week and she went out there with me. She rode 2 bikes as well. She rode the Iron 1200 and the Softail Standard. So definitely go look at her video, watch hers, and make sure that you give her a like and a thumbs up and give her a sub, because like I said, she is new to YouTube and she needs all the support from the motovlogging community. And yeah, thanks Harley, thanks Empire Harley, thanks to you guys. If you like this sort of content, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Chase, this is the Whiskey Chaser channel. We'll see you later.